This one's blinking.
Okay, I'll switch you. And now we are live, of course. Go figure. I
I'll
will.
take tails while you fix this one.
Oh, here, I'll give you this.
Oh, no, but-
We're live, of course. You know, this is.
All right, move the way. Yeah,
That's why.
there we go. Okay, little delay as we get a live mic, so. Thank you, everybody, for you are tuning in or here live, which we have people before us, so what I'm gonna do is call this regular session of the mayor and council, the city of Bisbee, the county of Cochise, and state of Arizona, being held on Tuesday, October 3rd at 7 p.m. at our council chambers. So, roll call, please.
Councilmember Juanetta Hill. Councilmember Joni Giacomino. Here. Councilmember Frank Davis.
Here.
Mayor Ken Budge.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Jones. Here. Councilmember Mel Sweet is going to be a little late. Mayor Pro Tem Anna Klein. Here. City staff, Stephen Pocken, City Manager, Ashley Coronado, City Clerk, Carrie Bagley, Finance Director, Joelle Landers is not here, never mind. Matt Gurney, Public Works Director, Jay Ritchie, Deputy Police Chief, Jim Richardson, Fire Chief, Melissa Hartman, City Planner, Joe Estes, City Attorney.
Thank you. For a moment of silence tonight, we'll just ask for a moment of reflection, and I'll ask you to stand, and then we'll say. Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I really don't have any proclamations. No announcements except to let people know that we are moving forward on a city manager replacement. We have some applicants that we're going through at this point, and that we're also moving forward on possible replacement of City Hall. So all those things are in the works. No real updates at this time because it takes a lot of background information and understanding where we are on all those. So hopefully the 17th we'll have a lot more information, which is our next council meeting on the 17th. So just wanted to update you on that. It's sitting back in our chairs and letting them fly by, but we're actually working on things. So. All right. Next order of business is all the public. Williams. Thank you.
For having me tonight.
If you just give it your name officially.
My name is Sherry Williamson. I live at 108 Mill Road in Warren. My husband, Tom Wood, who's with me here tonight, he and I have lived there since November of 1995. Beautiful neighborhood, love it very much, but we're extremely disturbed with what's going on with the blocking of the railroad right of way and issues with Freeport-McMoRan. I'm here talking with you guys tonight because we have not been contacted directly by Freeport-McMoRan about any of these issues. But a lot of our neighbors are extremely concerned about it. I know we're concerned because when we sat down in November of 1995 to sign all the paperwork to buy our little house behind the ball field, one of the surprises in the deed was that we actually do not have legal access to our property. Our driveway is on the part of Mill Road that still belongs to the mining company. Of course, at that time it was Phelps Dodge. Now it's Freeport-McMoRan. But we don't have legal access to our property. That means our neighbor to the south also does not have legal access to her property. We're required to provide her access through our property, but given the state of our driveway and just the topography of that area and the geological and challenges of that area. It's awkward. Having the railroad right of way open to vehicle traffic has actually been a boon to folks who live along Mill Road. Others of our neighbors who also don't have legal access to their property have had legal access to their property via the old railroad right of way, which Freeport-McMoRan has never protested our use of that area. And in fact, Phelps Dodge was extremely lax about its ownership of the railroad right of way during its tenure before it sold its holdings to Freeport-McMoRan. And now they're blocking off the railroad right of way for reasons that are somewhat obscure and sound pretty spurious to me, from what I've heard only secondhand, again, because Freeport-McMoRan has not communicated anything directly to us. I'm very concerned about access to emergency vehicles. I'm concerned about the fact that, we have a fire on the property next door. If the wind hadn't been blowing from the direction of our house would have gone up in flames, I'm sure. And seconds make a difference, as everyone knows, whether it's a medical emergency or fire emergency, police emergency, those kinds of things. So I would like to bring this to the council's attention that this is something that we've been ignoring, obviously, for a very, very long time. That Freeport-McMoRan ignored it, Phelps Dodge ignored it before them, the city has ignored it, but we definitely have an issue with the old railroad right of way and it providing access, especially for emergency and services vehicles, to our homes along Mill Road and adjacent roads. So I want to bring this to the attention of the council. I hope that it will be an agenda item at a future meeting. So thank you.
No, great, and I'll ask you to contact our city manager. I know we can work with Freeport if it has to do with access to your actual property. So I'm asking you that you'll contact our city manager and I will work with you on what we can do to make sure that there's access, especially for emergency stuff.
Okay, yeah, currently there is not, but I hope that we can restore that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you for coming before us. All right, that's all we have for call to public. Moving on, I will move to accounts payable. So we have item 1. Do I have a motion for accounts payable?
I move that we pay accounts payable in the amount of $560,173.36, subject to availability of funds. Second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve accounts payable as shown. Do I have questions on anything before us on accounts? Okay, go ahead.
On page 5, for the fire department, there's a charge for a lift station on control. What is it? Not cheap, but you might have.
Yes. That's actually under building maintenance. And that is for the lift station that supports the fire department.
Okay. I
The
wondered
sewer
about,
lift station.
Yeah, the sewer lift station.
see, that's what I was assuming a lift station was, that's why I was wondering why it was in fire, but, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, the only building that is on that lift station is the fire station.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any more?
Yeah, I have
Okay,
one.
go ahead, now.
Page 8. Under advertising, we have a bunch of spending invoices, and they all is Wall Street Journal that we do advertisement in the Wall Street Journal.
City manager or Jerry?
Did you say page 8?
Yes,
Yeah, under transit room tax.
and it's
Oh, okay.
advertising.
Towards the bottom of that section.
Yeah, I got it. I can't answer directly, except that it is advertising in through that Ivy House Media Limited, which is basically an ad brokerage for tourism.
Okay, can we get like specific later on, because it said Wall Street Journal, so I don't know if we're advertising in Wall Street. At least that's the explanation.
They do publish all over the world, so.
Yeah, I know, I read it. I just wanna make sure why are we, I mean, just if you can find some answers.
I put a couple editorials in too.
Yeah, okay. I didn't read those, so.
I don't know if they take my.
No.
editorials.
Okay, I mean, if you can just like, just, that would be enough for me, thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else?
I've got one more.
Okay, go ahead.
On page 7, under the senior center, for electric, it's 562.44, but it says 2 of 3, so I'm wondering, where is the third one? And is that generally about what electricity runs? If we add the third one too, well,
Yeah.
I would think.
The 203 is just designating that's, we have like 3 different vendors set up for APS. So this is just under 203, it depends on what we're paying, where the bill gets sent, like some of the bills just for the street lighting go to one APS address. The ones for regular electric goes to another APS address. So it's just 2 of 3 APS vendor accounts that we have set up.
Okay, so it's not 3 separate bills, or, okay, that's what I was checking, thank you.
It shows on the streets APS bill as well. It shows 3 of 3 too.
So there's 3 separate accounts that are held by ABS to us. And normal, very confusing. What else? Okay, we'll move on. This is a motion and a second to approve accounts payable in the amount of $560,173.36. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Hearing none, the ayes have it. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Under our consent agenda, we have one item, which is a approval of the minutes, of the regular session from September 19th. We have an appointment to the Board of Adjustment and resignation from the Evergreen Cemetery. Then we also have a park and facility right of use permit for Main Street. And Subway and the Convention Center. This is for the Festival of Lights and approval of attached letter to request donations for that same Festival of Lights. Do we have anybody who would like to pull anything from A through E? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for a consent agenda as listed.
I move that we approve the consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items A through E as shown. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, so be it. All right, we have no old business tonight, but we have new business. So this is item 3. This is discussion and possible approval of a recommendation from the Disney Arts Commission to fund a grant application for the Plain Air Festival 2023 submitted by the Central School Project in the amount of $700 from the Disney Arts Commission Fund. Councilmember Johns, you got it.
So the only thing that's really notable about this grant is that usually the Arts Commission is only giving away grants up to $500. But because Central School is an organization, they're eligible for a little bit more, so they're getting $700 to the Art Festival.
Thank you. Plain Air is a very great situation and draw lots of great artists and a great. Anybody question? I don't feel discussion. All right, I'll ask for a motion on item 3.
I move to approve the recommendation from the Disney Arts Commission to fund a grant application for Plain Air Festival 2023 submitted by Central School Project in the amount of $700 from the Disney Arts Commission Fund.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Disney Arts Commission grant for $700 to the Central School Project. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. So moved. This is item 4. Item 4 is discussion and possible approval of a special event agreement for 5 years between the Bisbee Pride and the city of Bisbee for the Bisbee Pride Festival. Why don't you
Yes.
give us our background, city manager Bob?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. This item is a request between Bisbee Pride and the city for a 5-year special event. This is almost verbatim, same agreement that we structured and approved several meetings ago for Bisbee Vogue to give the permits for a 5-year period, or to use the venue for a 5-year period for the Bisbee 1000 stair climb. So, other than a few minor things like names and dates, this is structured identically. And as you might expect, after you approve the 5-year agreement with Bisbee Vogue, Bisbee Pride didn't skip their notice. And so they came in and asked if they could do the same thing. So what we did was we gave them a template for the agreement. They finished it off. The city attorney has reviewed it. And so it's got the city approved, the city attorney stamp of approval. And staff is recommending approval, and Ramon would like to say a couple words.
Sure. First, though, just the correction, 5-year was not the Bisbee Vogue, but rather to
The stair climb.
well, to actually.
I stand corrected. Right.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. that.
Yes.
So, I'm gonna let you give a little presentation and then we'll, ask for any questions. Thank you.
Sure, just briefly, thanks, Mayor and Council. We came back to council for this similarly, so we wouldn't have issues, here before with looking for competing events during that weekend for the venues that we normally use. We're coming up next year on our 20th annual Pride Festival. And we look forward to continuing to promote Bisbee, bring business into the community for that weekend. And as city manager said, it's identical to the previous agreement that you guys have entered into with communications, other than for the locations that are specific to the ones we will use. And we are currently shopping for insurance. The agreement here before you says that we will have insurance no later than 30 days prior to the event. I foresee that happening a lot sooner than that as we shop for a better insurance plan.
Okay, thanks. Quickly, I kind of set a number like, and you just hit it, which was 20 years before we give out 5-year permits. It needs to be proven to us and let us know that this is an event that has a long-term history and we know basically what's going to go on. So when I found out it was the 5-year, 20-year anniversary, then that seems to be about appropriate amount to me before we understand that honestly, this is a great long-term event. So anyway, I'll open up to other questions. I have a couple myself, but I'll let the people. Concerns, questions, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment, thank you for doing this. I'm happy to see this event assured into the future.
Thank you. Are there questions? I do.
Can I
Oh,
just-
sure.
I don't know if this can Ramon, but maybe Steve, just on the fees, even though it's a 5 years, but let's say we decided to raise fees, does not guarantee them the current fee. They will have to pay whatever fees that we have for future.
Yeah,
Well, just the fees, yeah.
the way the agreement reads is it just refers to his fees being subject to
Okay,
the fee schedule in effect.
we just want to make sure it's not for 5 years.
So if we change a fee that impacts his event,
Mhm.
say 2 years from now,
Yeah,
you will pay the fee that becomes in effect at that.
okay. That's all.
So he doesn't lock anything in except the exclusivity.
Okay.
I know I'm nitpicking, but I have a tendency to read everything. So on number 3C, under this, it says deliver and pick up necessary trash dumpsters at Higginsville Park. You have really nothing to do with Higginsville Park, do you?
Is that the one that I missed?
I think you missed that.
You are correct. If
You
that
don't
was-
really care about.
What, like I said, when we copied the other,
So,
So what if they want to pick it up? That's okay.
That's-
It's part of
Yeah.
That's the city's obligation, so.
yeah, the city wants to continue to pick up the Higgins Hill town.
okay, so I'm gonna, when I make this motion, I'm just gonna delete 3C unless you think you need trash at Higginsville Park.
No,
Okay. Secondly, what I did notice in this was our last time we had a confusion with your event was Howell Avenue and what went on at a certain night there. Nothing in here talks about Howell Avenue as one of your areas that you need to, now, is that something you want or you don't care?
we are not going to be doing Howell Avenue.
Okay, great, then that one's handled, so. Any more, nitpicky things like me? Oh, go ahead. Yeah. I know that. Hold the mic. They need to know you. Yeah.
Okay, you just think you're yelling.
Okay, so, he doesn't have the insurance and we'll have it within 30 days.
Or he doesn't get his permit. That's the way it's written.
Insurance is a condition of the permit, not a condition of disagreement.
What else? Seeing none? So I'm gonna make a motion. So I make a motion to approve the 5-year special event agreement between Bisbee Pride and the city of Bisbee for the Bisbee Pride Festival, and doing away with item 3C, the Higginsville Park.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the 5-year agreement between Bisbee City Pride and the city of Bisbee. Do we need a vote? Guess not. All those in favor, second by saying aye. Opposed, nay?
Thank you.
Thank you, so moved.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, this will be item number 5. This is discussion and possible approval of a notice of intent to adopt ordinance O-23-14. This is amending the code of the city of Bisbee, Article 3.5.20, bid protest, subsection 3.5.20A, filing a protest by defining an interested party in subsection 3.520A1, providing for repeal and city attorney, that's a long one. Thanks, go ahead.
We're gonna add a couple more subsections in there.
Yeah.
Mayor and Council, this is just cleaning up the code that caused issues, a few years back with regard to who is defined as an interested party and being able to file a bid protest for a procurement. This was the issue that got litigated, went up to the appellate court. And because they found that there was some ambiguity with regard to who an interested party was, what this does is it defines interested party. I looked at other municipalities and jurisdictions as to how they define interested party. And incorporated some of that language so that we could make sure that the proper parties are able to file bid protests and we don't end up in protracted litigation. Because the way it was worded is that any taxpayer or any resident of the city could file a bid protest, and that's not how procurements are done anywhere. It's typically it's the interested parties in that bid. If there's an issue with how the bid process went, then one of those interested parties would have an opportunity to file a bid protest and bring that to council. So
thank you with that. Little side note, I'd like to make known that in full transparency, we're not trying to hide anything. This is something that not more than less, but actually cleans up the idea that when this went up as far as the Supreme Court, they didn't rule that the public has the right to protest. They just said your current ordinances aren't in place to say who does and who doesn't. So this cleans this up. So no city can stand around with hundreds of contract or tens and tens of contracts they do every year and then end up being tied up by a citizen that doesn't think that that's a situation. So in full transparency, what I'm trying to say is that people have the right to see every one of these contracts. They come before us. They are published on the web. You can read them, you can understand them. And if you have an issue with it, you bring it before us, right here before council, and we can table it, we can do whatever. But ultimately, it is all transparency, it's all there. But the interested parties are the people that are actually trying to put money towards something we want done and not just necessarily the public. So that's my little speech, just to make sure everybody knows it's not trying to hide something under a transparency cloak, that we're actually open and it's just the way it's done in every other cities. We're just a little behind our rules.
And it is acknowledged as a legal requirement that, you know, in order to be an interested party, you typically have to have an in that process. That just being a taxpayer or a resident of the city isn't a qualification for a limited issue like this, which is a very specific bid protest. As the mayor explained, the public has the absolute right to come to your council meetings to talk on an agenda item for any RFP or bid, express their positions, concerns, whatever. This is just a process that allows those who are actively involved in that bid, if there is an issue with something with how the bid was procured, how it was scored, how it was proposed to be awarded, that they have an opportunity to file a formal protest, essentially an appeal to the council to have that matter heard. So it's essentially their administrative rights to be able to bring a complaint with regard to the process.
Right. And I want to give a prime example of something just happened out of Camp Naco. They came before us, we listened and we said, whoa, wait a minute. We went back and now it's going back out for bid again. So it's not like people don't have the ability to look at it and talk to us. And so I'm perfectly fine with this, but I'm opening up for comments. Anybody else have concerns, comments?
So I just clarify this, so you know, this will not negate, like with the Camp Naco, other bidders coming in and questioning a bid or raise a objection to a bid similar to what happened with Camp Naco. Am I correct? I mean, other bidders have the right, they can go in and challenge the bid. I just want to make sure it's clear to the public.
Yes, it just better defines, because our code says any interested party may protest a solicitation issued by the city.
Okay.
And so the issue that got litigated that costs tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees was any interested party. That wasn't a defined term.
Okay.
So was this individual over here who wasn't part of the bid process, an interested party in doing the protest. So what we did is come back and say, for purposes of this article, an interested party means this, and this. And it is those individuals, the offerer, prospective offerer, or bidder, whose economic interest is affected substantially and directly by the issuance of a solicitation, an award or loss of an award of a city contract. Whether an offerer or prospective offerer or bidder has an economic interest depends on the circumstances of each case. So it allows some flexibility, but it defines in more detail what that issue is, because the codes, get updated all the time, and we find issues where, you know, when they were initially drafted, you know, they probably thought there was no ambiguity here. A court has found that there was some ambiguity. So when that happens, then you go try to correct that and remove the ambiguity and make it as clear as possible as to what that provision of the code means.
Yeah, this is the notice of intent, so it'll be before us again, so everybody will now see that we are doing this and they have a issue.
Just one more, just picking. How about the situation where no bids? We decided to award procurement something and there was no bids involved. Is this handled here or it's public?
Well, if you have a situation where we go out for an RFP and nobody responds to it, then there would be nobody who would have a financial interest in that RFP to file a protest. So
The other issue is.
That will also apply to this.
Yeah, and also understand that if, like, we went out to bid from City Hall and we rejected all bids, we can do that.
Yeah,
Ultimately, it is our responsibility as mayor and council to accept or reject bids. But if we accept one and somebody doesn't like what we accepted and they also bid, they have a chance to
come back and question.
And the council is still the ultimate final arbiters of any issues with regard to the procurement. Because if you file a bid protest, then that sets forth a certain time period for it to come to council for the protester to bring their arguments and assert their position. And the council makes that decision, again, in a public meeting, and it's all done openly in the public. What this does is it just removes that ambiguity, so we don't run into the same or similar issue and get involved with litigation. So it's just an attempt to try to clean up what the court identified as an ambiguity and make it more detailed.
save us money.
I'd just like to say, I appreciate you looking into it, take care of this. I remember the previous situation. It was it was very muddy and ridiculous at the time.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I think we got that one out in the openness, so I'll entertain a motion for item 5.
I move to approve minutes of intent as presented.
I like you.
We're not moving until we get the rest. Second, I'll help you.
All right, we have a sec, we have a motion and a second to approve item 5, and choose the notice of intent to adopt ordinance of 2023-14 as listed. Although, this is a ordinance, we need a roll call.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Giacominno,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, well, we can say we don't have fun right now. All right, moving on to item 6. This is discussion of possible acceptance of an award from the EPA for the cleanup and mitigation of the Hillcrest apartment building in the amount of $468,000. And approval of a contract with Viking Specialty Contractors. And we have Melissa here to give us the lowdown. So this is, as you know, a long-going thing with Hillcrest, and we're moving. We have not let it just fall into the abyss. We are pushing onward, and I thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We went out to bid for these contractors back in spring of last year after we received a bid. We had 3 companies come down, do walkthroughs and send bids into us. We then, because the APA and our timelines never seem to meet, theirs are much longer than ours. We asked them to come down for a second walkthrough because it had been quite a few months and to update their bids. At that point in time, one bidder did drop out, so we had 2 bids left. We did the vetting and talked to them, and we've chosen Viking, which is a company out of Tempe, Arizona. They've been in business approximately 10 years. Their bid happened to be the cheapest, but that isn't exactly why we chose them. They actually responded to the best to what we knew our needs were. They have sent us, you will see that they have a timeline attached to their contract of when they can start and when they can have this completed. We will be meeting with them one more time before they start. And talking about some additional usage of the funds. They do have a 20% contingency built in that was recommended by the EPA. We're pretty happy with them, and I hope you'll recommend, and I'm here for any questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Just a couple of additional comments with regard to this agenda item. I actually have experience, working for another city, using this contractor to, basically raise an old Route 66 hotel that was loaded with asbestos. And, we were extremely happy with the, work product that we got from them and again, they had to compete for business and they were not only the best bid, they were the lowest bid, so.
You were very responsive.
So, we do have previous experience working with them and a good bit of confidence that they'll do the job the way we want it, so. They can highly recommend.
Questions, comments?
I just a comment. I don't see the bids here. You said there's two companies that put in.
Originally, three companies bid. Then we asked them to come back and revise their bid. And at that point, one dropped out. I'm
So
happy.
you only left with one?
I was like,
Two, but there was no, okay, I thought there was attachment. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't see the attachments here, that's all.
You can't see the bids until we actually give them all the.
No, their proposal, I mean, the bid, and they said this was the cheapest, so you have two bids.
Right.
Am I correct? So one they gave you a price, the second gave you a note. I'm talking about, I'm saying I don't see what the difference, so I can go along with what you're recommending.
well, I can tell you that we asked the bidders to give us two options. One option was complete mitigation, take everything out.
Okay,
One was to do a combination of that. We're not experts, we don't really
Yeah.
know. So the company that bid, their option one quote was 160,073 with a 20% contingency. Now their option two came in at 327,200 with, again, an additional 20% contingency.
mhm,
The Viking bid, came in at 217,232, which was their option one.
mhm.
Again, 20% contingency seems to be pretty standard with these vendors. And their option two came in at 198,736.80. We actually negotiated the option one with them because we felt like we got more of what we also wanted as far as windows and other issues. They answered our questions very well. We in turn then picked them, and now there are two more contracts that we will have to do, so they will also be monitored. They're so, and I'll bring those before you when I do.
Okay,
that.
that's what I wanted to.
Yeah,
Okay, so you bring.
So the
okay.
EPA is pretty tight in their procedures, so they will perform the work, and then a separate independent contractor will do the air quality testing. And then a third independent contractor will make sure that the closeout is done correct for the EPA.
That's why there's extra money in versus the bid versus what.
Yeah. So you went with option one, 217, am I correct?
Right
But you
around
got
there,
me.
yeah, right.
Okay,
around
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Remember the exact number, sorry,
Okay.
it should be in there,
So they're lower than the other company, that's what I
Right.
wanted to see,
214, yes.
214, okay.
Yes, and that came from our second, going back out, now they've done their walkthroughs twice. All the three companies have done a walkthrough, three companies did the second walkthrough, and it was at that point that one of the companies then dropped out.
Okay.
Well, the bid came in at 217 and she beat him down to
14. You'll find a way at that 20% contingency.
That's,
Okay.
you never know what you're gonna find, you're gonna cover.
Yeah,
Questions, other questions, comments? Well, then, I say we keep moving forward on Hillcrest to where it will now become a much more viable building that we can get towards affordable housing. A motion first. What?
I move to accept the award from EPA for the cleanup and mitigation of the Hillcrest Apartment Building in the amount of $468,000 and approval of a contract with Viking Specialty Contract.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item 6, which is accept the award from EPA, the amount of $468,000, and accept the bid from Viking for $214,000. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Thank you. Oh, you already sat down. It's so approved.
She did good.
Yeah.
They're very anxious to come down here and start.
All right, here we go. Now we got item 7, discussion of possible approval of extending a grant in the amount of $45,000 from Freeport McMillan for a new firefighter turnout. Chief Richardson. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you can see, we got a grant in amount of 45,000 and just asking you guys if we can spend it on turnouts.
Simple questions?
Can you explain what turnout is?
Sure.
Yeah. So,
It is our protective gear. It is a jacket and our pants is the bulk of the gear.
so you'll be buying new ones?
Our current turnout gear is quickly approaching its useful life.
Okay.
So yes, it will replace as many as we can get. Some of us will still have a couple of pairs until the dates run out or they're no longer in use. So yeah, we're gonna try to get the best bang for our buck. Turnouts are kind of like cars, you know, there's all different options. And we're gonna do the best we can and get as many as we can and still stay in compliance with NFPA standards.
And NFPA says 10 years and they're done. And you might as well tell them about 4,000.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah, between 3,000 and 4,000 pair, depending on how big the guy is. If they have anything that fits them or not, they have to go in and modify the length or the width, or then that always adds more money to it. We have some big guys.
Just a second, since, are we gonna put, are you gonna go out for bids or you just buy them, or how do you go about the procedure on this?
We're gonna
Do you have
search
a,
around.
okay,
Couple different vendors and see who's got the best offer.
okay, so we haven't done that yet.
I have not done that.
Okay,
yet.
all right, thank you.
go ahead, Hannah.
Okay, Chief, since you brought up sizes, what sizes are we looking?
Anywhere from women's small to men's XXX.
And then, okay, so we know that the coats and pants are included. Will this include the Nomex hoods, the helmet, and the boots as well, or just?
Just the coat, turnout jacket and pants. We have currently, we purchased a second hood for all the guys. To help with cancer prevention. So everybody has 2 hoods right now. So we won't have to buy that, but that normally would be a part of the turnout gear, but unless some of them are damaged, we may have to replace a couple, but not all 21 pair.
Not that much.
And they're not too expensive, maybe $60 to $100, depending on which kind you buy.
Okay, so do those only get replaced when they're damaged, or do they age out like the turnouts?
They usually wear out before they age out, so, yeah. Both, as long as they're still in good shape, we're gonna use them. We like to have a backup just in case there's two back-to-back fires in the same evening or the next day. You know, we can only wash one pair at a time, so, you know, it takes a while to get them all clean. And, so it's nice to have a second good to throw on, clean.
Okay, and I know that, well, I know that some of the bigger departments in Phoenix are actually going to have 3 turnouts per, but what I know, we had a discussion about that at the conference, but, they're really trying to go with 2 sets of turnouts per firefighter. Are we anywhere close to that?
To be honest, this is gonna help. Like I said, some of us will have 2 pair. This past year, we bought 2 new pair, well, actually right before the fiscal year, so if we can get, 15 pair, we'll have 17 new pairs. There's only a few left that can make up the rest of the guys, so we're hoping we can be smart and get enough to have everybody a second pair for a little while. Until they time out, and then we'll go back out and do the season.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of get ahead of the curve here.
So. Heather, questions? I mean, the hood, anything that actually touches the skin, you want to keep clean as much as possible. And so, that's where the hood is actually on your face. So that's an important part, but it's not an expensive part.
Your neck is one of the most vulnerable
Right.
spots on your body to absorb. You're all sweaty and you're getting those toxins and stuff in.
The mask protects this much, but outside of
The
that,
rest of it is
this
vulnerable.
here has a little notch on it from not having those.
If
All
I
right.
may, if I may real quick, Mayor, I'd like to give a big thank you to Melanie Green, who wrote this grant for us.
Oh, sure.
She did so, without compensation. She did this, for us. She's helped us out a few times. She got us a new fire truck and a new ambulance about 7 years ago. So I just want to throw a big shout out to her. Appreciate everything she does for us. She did a great job.
Absolutely. So Melanie's a great grant writer and we can see that from the situation out there at the Melanie Lane and what's going on out there. So we appreciate anybody that will step up and help us because.
Yeah, that's true. If I may, real quick, off subject here, we did receive another grant through the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management for wildland mitigation around the city of Bisbee in the amount of $122,000, I believe. I don't have that paperwork in front of me. And that's gonna help, got fire breaks around vulnerable parts of the city. We're gonna, hopefully, it's a little bit farther out than this grant, that's why I didn't bring it to you tonight, but just wanted to make you guys aware that, and that grant was written by Dan Boucher.
You'll be working on Firewise on that one. I mean, they're not gonna do it, but they're.
I think we're gonna work with the Firewise isn't capable, to be honest, they're not capable of managing this project.
No, I didn't say, I did working on, that they will help you decide maybe the better places.
Yeah, I think we're gonna work in partnership with them,
Right.
but
Yeah, they're not gonna do the grant.
no, we're gonna try to hire the Department of Corrections crews, wildland crews to come out and help us in the off season to cut down some of the dangerous brush and make our city safer. So,
Great.
anyway, a big thank you to Danielle, who's here today too.
You want to award in the paper? Okay, questions? Comments? How about motion for item 7?
We move to accept a grant from Freeport McMoran in amount of $45,000 for a new firefighter turnout gear.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the acceptance of the grant of 45,000 from Freeport McMoran and for the firefighter here. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have to vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Tell you, don't forget that. Thank you. What is it? One item left? That's what happens to me. We get close to the end. All right. Moving on. Item 8, this is discussion of possible approval of the notice of intent to adopt resolution R-2312. This is amending and increasing the sewer fees for the city of Bisbee. That's such a bad one, but go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We held a work session on August 15th, and this was the topic. Just to remind everybody that we have a sewer rate study that was done back in, I believe, 2018. And the recommended rates, it recommended that the first few years that would not increase the sewer rates, but then in subsequent years, starting, I believe, since this was 2023, I think in 2021, we were supposed to start adding in 3% increases. We did not do that, and consequently, we haven't adjusted our sewer rates in 10 years. That's a pretty long time not to increase the rates of just about anything, whether you're in government or in business. And yet we managed to hold the line. So as we discussed and got some financial information from the finance department, over those years, the fund balance that we end the year up with has grown smaller and smaller. So before we get to a point where that fund balance shrinks to the point where we don't have any contingency or any money to handle emergencies or large purchases, we do need to take some action. So what we've done is prepared the notice of intent, which is on the back side of the cover sheet there. And this notice of intent would be action number 1.
I just want to clarify that. We've included in giving you a revised resolution for this notice of intent that been provided to
It should be.
Hampton Corrections to.
Okay, and the corrections on it.
It was redrafted. To meet the requirements for the code. The only thing that we've got to fill in on the corrected resolution is the date for the hearing, which is going to be the December 5th council meeting. That allows us the 60 days that we have to have following the adoption of this notice of this resolution for, and then the notice, giving notice of intent to increase.
Okay, so then, as Joe just told you, this is step 1. This sets into motion the clock, which will ultimately result in that public hearing, which is now scheduled for December 5th. And so once that December 5th hearing is held, then you will be able to do the final ordinance, final resolution with regard to that. Now, as we discussed in the work session, staff had recommended that even though we're going to raise the base fee by 3%, we also recommended holding the line at the same amount that we're currently charging for households that are less than the 50% and the 100% of the federal poverty guidelines. our intention is not to change the low income rate at all. Okay, with this rate reduction, so. I just wanted to say that again, because I know that was a substantial part of our discussion. First time, and I also want to reiterate, for the public who may be currently on the low income schedule, that their rates will not change with the adoption of this resolution. So, that, unless there's any questions, staff recommends approval of this notice of intent.
Well, as we know, we held a work session, we didn't raise rates back during the pandemic. It was really tough on everybody. We held off an additional 2 years, but time has now come. That was quite a few meetings ago, but then we had to publish it in newspapers. There's a lot of stuff to go through this, and now this is a resolution that we will be adopting the intent and hold a public hearing on December 5th. So just quickly, that means the residential rate will go up $1.43 a month. So put it in dollars and cents. Questions? Comments?
I have,
Okay.
on the householders, then we pay a 50% poverty guidelines. Has this been, how do you guys go about making sure that's the case? What kind of procedure, what kind of system you using to ensure that those people deserving are getting, it's not being abused in some area, making sure, I mean, is there guidelines, is there an updated?
Yes.
Okay,
Of course, the first thing is that there is a schedule
okay,
in federal guidelines that tell us what those numbers are. Okay, so, and it's expressed as a function of annual income. So for 30%, it's this much money, and for 100%, it's this much money. So we're operating from a federal schedule and not just arbitrarily figuring out what that number may be. Secondly, there is a procedure that was adopted by council, 15 or 16 years ago.
We updated it not long ago.
that's my question, has it been updated?
Yes, we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you go and ensure that deserving household?
Let me,
First of all,
we're a little off,
just
just very quickly, because we're off.
Okay.
there is a
What's off?
There is a procedure in the code that was adopted by council that sets forth how those guidelines will be administered. So since that's, the mayor's remind us, we're off the subject. You're welcome to either look it up in the city code, or if you want to come down,
Okay.
I'll have Carrie show it to you.
Okay, just why keep us out of the muck. Having a bad thing come for us like not following. Anyway, all right. So we have I'll entertain a motion unless we have any other questions for this possible resolution for the mayor and council come before a public hearing on December 5th. Maybe since this is kind of a new one, instead of what's proposed in the motion, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution R-2312, which is adopting a notice of intent to increase wastewater rates, fees, and services, and setting a public hearing on proposed increase December 5th, 2023.
A second that.
So a motion and a second to approve resolution R-2312. The intention of raising wastewater rates and setting a public hearing on December 5th. Roll call.
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Giacominno, Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
I,
Councilmember Sweet,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes 6-1. So moved. All right, our last item of business is city manager.
Okay, 2 quick items, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. First of all, there's, I have a guest in the audience tonight. Her name is Sandy Moshi. Would you raise your hand, Sandy?
That's why I haven't seen her. She's
Yes.
behind it.
behind. Sandy is a Marvin Andrews Fellow at the University, excuse me, at Arizona State University. We want to make sure we get the right knowledge here. Arizona State University has a Master's of Public Administration program that has been building for the last 15 or so years under the professorship of a former city manager with whom I've been acquainted for a good number of years. And the whole purpose of the Marvin Andrews Fellowship is to attract students into public administration to try and stem what we all have been seeing for the last 10 or more years as a shortage of city managers nationwide. A number of colleges have had entered into similar programs. ASU has actually expanded their program this year and actually has more students in it than they did in the last cohort. And so students like Sandy are going to learn not just from professors, but they're going to spend a lot of time in the field, which is why Sandy's down here today. She's going to get exposed to a lot of different things over the next 2 years that are going to make her valuable to communities like us in the coming years. So she did get this. We got a chance to talk and about a number of items, and then she also around mid-afternoon, 4 people came in my office while she was sitting there and conducted a rather spirited meeting around her. So she got to participate in the making of the sausage, as well as be able to just talk back and forth about public policy issues in general. So thank you, Sandy, for coming down. Certainly had a great time with you this afternoon. I know you and Mel had a great time after that other meeting was over, but she probably had more fun with Melissa than she did with me. So anyway, and then of course she wanted to take in a council meeting, and I didn't tell you until now that we had a guest that was studying to become a public administrator, because I didn't necessarily want you to be on your best behavior, but thank you for that. So
We didn't blow it totally.
Welcome to your council.
okay, so and one more item, pool update. I'm going to defer to Matt if you don't mind.
Yep, I love these updates. We're gonna eventually say it's done, but go ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to that. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. For an update, I have reached back out to Thunder Mountain Pools, which I said we were going to be in October. They are in the process of ordering a full pump and the filter deal. I don't know what it's called. And the filter that goes with it, as long as the inlet returns caps for the bottom of the pool. I found ones that aren't trip hazard or not something where people can cut their feet, because dome is exactly what we need. So they're sourcing all that for us. The electrician is well on his way in the building, all new lights in the building. He's working on the services for the 3-phase for the motor. He met with APS today to get that moving forward, to get that changed. I don't have timelines yet for any of these things, but I should find out more in the next coming days.
All right, it's baby steps, but we're getting there. And
Yes, plugging along.
closer.
If I could,
Yeah.
there's one more thing.
As long as it's about the pool.
It's not necessarily, but it's about a grant.
As long as nobody asks questions.
Nobody else, but our EPA infrastructure grants that we went out for recycling, we were not awarded that grant. We do have an option in 6 months to have more awards coming out.
Very good, master.
I know, right?
I know, leave it on the good news spot.
Yeah, we're recycling the pool water. so-
Yeah, I know.
Oh, well,
You have to spoil it. Man, we used to get.
I was gonna say, good job, Matt, now change my mind.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, and, thank you, and go back to ASU and say, we would love a new city manager from you guys and where you come from, so,
What's on Devils?
yeah, all right,
Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? We are adjourned. Oh, I get to-